What's up, everybody? I'm Tim.
And I'm Tori.
And this is the Stuck Together podcast. No idea what episode we're on.
I think we're on 18.
Actually, I think
also,
we are on 18.
Featuring Sage in the very bottom. Hi.
you can barely see her.
She really wants to be a part of things. Oh my
Oh,
goodness.
yeah.
Why don't... She's trying to find a place to lay down, but Anubis is kind of taking up a lot of the floor.
Everybody always comes in when we do the podcast.
Yes. Yep. It's where they like to hang.
Well, this week, Victoria made me watch Twilight.
I did.
I tried to refuse, but she wouldn't let me.
Well, no. I was fully ready to acknowledge that you didn't want to watch it.
Well, look, I mean, I did give in. I'm not a victim here.
You kept bringing it up, and I was like, yo, all right. I said no a few times. You're like, are we watching Twilight tonight? And I was like, eh.
Yeah, I was ready. And she was like, no,
we're
we're not doing it. And I was like, okay.
It's kind of emotionally taxing. I was like, I don't know if I'm ready for this right now.
But yeah, we did end up watching it yesterday.
We did.
And before we get started.
Yeah, we have an email. Did she finally lay down? Okay, cool. She did.
Okay. You want to read it?
Yeah. So Sage, Tim's sister, said, I fully support Tori's suggestion for y'all to watch Twilight, but the key is to watch the first movie as if it's a comedy. Here's the thing. I also avoided it for most of my life, but a few years back, I watched the first movie with a group of friends as a joke, and we laughed the entire time. By the time it ended, we could not stop. The pull to finish the series was magnetic and beyond our control, and at the end of the weekend, we had finished all 5 movies. There is absolutely no guarantee that you'll end up liking the series. Maybe it's just a girl thing. There is a decent dose of dangerous boys, but I would bet you'll find yourself invested in one way or another before you're through the first one. But yeah, I said that right. I'm so glad the podcast is back. So that was a great email. I saw that come through last week, and I made sure that me and Tim read it before we watched Twilight, so thank you, Sage, for your suggestion. And I do agree that it is good going in knowing like this is gonna be kind of silly and absurd, and like it's okay to cringe. I've seen this movie I don't even know how many times at this point in my life, and last night we were watching it and I still had like the most violent cringe response to so many parts. I was like, I know what's gonna happen. I know the dialogue. I know what's gonna be said or done right now, and I still just like I was like screaming at certain points, just like in pain.
Yeah.
I love it. It has such a special place in my heart, but I can totally admit that it's like pretty cringy, especially watching it as an adult. It's just like, you know, I mean, when you're a kid, you watch stuff and you think stuff is either so cool or like so romantic or whatever. And then you like watch it again as an adult and you're like, oh, like I didn't realize maybe how bad the acting was or how weird, you know, just anytime you revisit something from your youth, I feel like there can definitely be that of like, oh, this is not how I remember it.
Mm-hmm.
But Twilight is one of those where I'm like, oh, I remember. And it's still
but you didn't cringe when you watched it the first time. You were just invested the first time.
Exactly. Yeah. When I watched it the first time.
When you were 4, right? When it came out? How old were you when it came out?
No, I was like 9 or 10.
That's right.
And then can you pull up, I don't want to spoil anything if we're going to watch the rest of them.
Yeah, not sure that's happening.
Look up Breaking Dawn Part 2.
Breaking Dawn Part. Yeah. Is that the third movie?
Okay,
what is this?
So, all right. So it's Twilight, and then New Moon, and then Eclipse, and then Breaking Dawn Part 1 and 2. So does
that mean there's only 4 books?
Yes. Yeah. And then they broke up the last book into 2.
Just like Harry Potter.
Uh-huh.
Or did Harry Potter follow Twilight?
Actually,
it doesn't matter. I mean,
I don't remember which one came out first, but yeah. So Breaking Dawn Part 2 came out in 2012. So wait, really? Wow, that's
That's
really
what Google
fast.
says.
Can you pull up Twilight, please? Let me figure out. Oh, it's 2008. Okay, so wow, that's like a really fast turnaround for 5
movies in 4 years.
Jeez, that's a lot.
I wonder. Sometimes with movies, depending on if they're books or this or that. I mean, the last movie, they could have just had so much material that they were trying to wrap up.
Right.
That they were like, oh well,
Break it into 2.
let's just make this 2 movies and just put everything in there because we really want it to make sense. But the
Yeah.
filming didn't take 2 whole years worth or something. I don't know.
When you look up Twilight, it has a little like a little thing that's saying it's ho 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 season, but like the song "Eyes on Fire." Oh,
did you know this? If you search recursion on Google, it says, "Did you mean recursion?" So if you click it just goes back to recursion, and it says, "Did you mean recursion?" As you can just keep clicking on recursion.
God. That's cool. If anyone
programming
listening knows any more like cool little Easter eggs on Google, let us know. I want to know more.
Oh yeah, well, and thanks Sage for the email.
Yes,
and
thank you.
If you want to email us, go ahead and email us at stucktogetherpod@gmail.com.
Yes. Not podcast.
Rememorize
Stuck
that from
pod.
our last episode.
Yes, and to clarify, I was 8 or 9 when the first Twilight came out.
Which
and then
means I was 15.
I was 12 or 13 when the last one came out, and so I was in that like core demographic of like not I was in that like very impressionable group of people. Whereas like maybe girls closer to your age range are a little bit older. Whereas like, I'm watching these movies and I haven't even like had a boyfriend yet or anything. And so I'm like, this is romance. But no, I was telling Tim that like, I'm cringing now and everything, but like I was in at the time. And, even when I would revisit them when I was in high school and everything, it's like I still loved them. Before we get into the movie as a whole, I gotta know I think I know what you're gonna say, but from just this first movie, I know he doesn't have a very big role yet, but would you say you are Team Edward or Team Jacob at this point?
Is that the only teams?
Yes. Yeah. She doesn't have any other real love interests.
What if I want to feel like I'm Edward and I could be Team Bella? Or I could be Jacob and I could be Team Bella.
Oh.
Why do I have to pick a guy?
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, that's
Maybe,
like...
Could I be Team Bella or Team whatever, the vampire that can see the future?
Alice?
What's her name? Yeah, maybe it's Team Bella or Team Alice for me. Do you ever think of that?
Whoa.
I mean, just saying, like...
Well, yeah. I mean, I'm just saying, like, since you didn't get to experience it at the hype, like, where would you have landed on that team? I mean, if you want to be Team Bella, go for it. But I'm saying, like, this was, like, the main thing is, like, Bella, or not Bella, shit.
Even after the first movie?
After the first movie, not as much.
He's very much the childhood friend that...
side character in the
whatever.
first. He becomes
in the first movie.
A pretty big part of the... well, by the end, he becomes a really big part of the story. If you know, you know, and I hate it so much. But no, yeah, he definitely doesn't have as big of a role in the first one. I was mixing up part 1 and part 2 in my head quite a bit. And yeah, it seems like I'm like, I keep trying to think. I think most of the things I'm thinking about Jacob are in the second movie. But I was like, mixing them together with the first on accident. So yeah, I didn't remember how little of a role he played in the first one. And so yeah, no one really, they did plan all the Twilight movies because they were all books at the time of. Yeah, I think
Okay,
most
so
of the books were written by the time it came out.
Well, importantly, they planned on doing the whole series from the beginning, because that's what I was curious about, because sometimes, even if it's books, sometimes they still just like, if the first movie doesn't go, they either won't go, or they'll just plan on doing the first one and then see how it goes, and they might not. But you could tell a lot by the ending of that movie. I could just imagine watching that movie and the ending and being like, oh, okay, so there's more, I guess. Gotta wait, I guess. So,
yeah.
Because it was very, very like, when Jacob's like, oh, you can't talk to Edward anymore because my dad doesn't want you to. And she's like,
weird.
okay. And then the movie ends. I was like, okay.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
I know there's more movies and that they're books, but it's just like,
yeah.
as its own movie, it was like, I feel like even like, I don't know, the like between watching movies and series now, I'm almost like, what does make a movie at this point? Because like we were talking about with the romance, the book probably makes sense. A series might make more sense, but one movie where people fall in love, like madly in love, it's like you kind of have to fit that into like 30 minutes max.
Yeah.
And then they deeply love each other the rest of the movie. And so like to do it in a movie and have it make sense, I feel like it's really hard to do.
Yeah, we talked about that it was like, you know, I know that it was for the sake of fitting it into the first movie, and you know the books are really like long, and so I think it was more gradual in the books. I've never read the book, so I don't know that, but I could guess. But yeah, it was crazy just how fast it moved, and like, you know, again, I'm kind of like suspending disbelief to be like, you know, I know that they only have an hour and a half or however long that movie is to like get to this point at the end. But yeah, it was so fast. I was like, oh my God, because I feel like rom-coms and stuff, a lot of them move fast as well, or just romance movies in general, but there's normally like enough kind of connecting scenes or like banter or something for you to like establish like, oh, these people are compatible, or like, oh, they're like joking together and like they're going through the same things right now or whatever. But in this movie in particular, it seems very like just so abrupt. I'm like, I don't know, I mean, it was, I think
the other thing is that since he's a vampire, it's partially like, duh, she likes him, she doesn't care about all his stuff, she wants to get to know him. But I think like for me, I was like, it's hard to tell if he like actually has vampire emotions for her or if he's got vampire bloodthirsty notions for her, because like, what are we talking, because like, can he not stand, when did he go from I'm trying my hardest not to eat you to, oh, I love you so much? Because like, I don't know. It just felt weird the whole time. It was like, I don't know. Is he still acting that way because he wants to eat her or what? Because
well, and he's
like, I'll protect you no matter what. I was like, oh, we're here.
I forgot about well, first of all, I mean, the scene where they're in the woods and she like basically says like, I know you're a vampire, and like they have that whole exchange and he goes into the sunlight to show what he looks like, and like all of that literally was some of the most painful cinema I've watched in a long time. Yeah. Like, again, I just don't remember a lot of things. I mean, oh, hi Frita. Hello. Oh my goodness. Do you want to say hi? Meow meow? Could you do a little meow? No? Fine. Whatever. But where is it? Oh, yeah. I forgot the part where he says that he's talking about being like the most dangerous predator, which, like, yeah.
Yeah, what?
Well, he's like 100 years old. It's, you know,
about like sexual predator.
It could go two ways. It's just weird. But no, that's not what I'm talking about. I do that is concerning, and a lot of people would agree with me that is like brushed over, and it's like you can't gloss over that, you know. But he says that everything about him is designed to lure people in, you know, like as this predator, like his looks, like his scent and like things like that. And I don't know if he meant that just in the way, I think he meant that like in the sense of humans get drawn to him, and or like just to vampires in general as like a hunting strategy. And so that kind of brought up this thing where, again, I forgot that he said that. And so I'm like, oh, so is it not only that Edward's drawn in because he wants to kill Bella, but is it also that Bella is being drawn in like in the same way? Like, is that part of it too?
He just kept saying he was a killer, and that he
said that his scent,
I remember him ripping the tree out of the ground and exhibiting his strength. I don't think he said anything about
he did.
Being attractive to humans.
No, he did. He did. He said everything about me is just like meant to draw you in. Like, you know, there were a couple things, but then also like he specifically mentioned his smell too. It's meant to draw humans in.
I don't remember that at all.
You can keep talking. I gotta look it up because that, like, I forgot that he said that. And that,
you'd know better than how many times have you seen this movie?
No, I don't even know. But that changes things for me. Let me see.
Yeah, I mean, it was just like, just watching him have all of those exhibitions in the forest of, oh, I'm so fast, I'm so strong, I can kill anything, and eating animals is like eating tofu, and yeah, I'm so badass, and it hurts so much to be so badass. It was just like every trope. It was just like, instead of using tropes or mechanisms to your advantage, it was like somebody was like, what's the most like gaudy and you know, obvious way we could just exhibit every trope back to back of like what women's fiction is all about. It was really like, yeah, intense. Let's just do it all right here, right now. I was like, yeah. Okay.
It was so aggressive. So I found it, and it's pretty short, but I remembered it right. So he says, I'm the world's most dangerous predator. Everything about me invites you in. My voice, my face, even my smell. As if I need any of that. As if you could outrun me. As if you could fight me off. I'm designed to kill. And Bella just says, I don't care. And he goes, I've killed people before. And she goes, it doesn't matter. He goes, I wanted to kill you. I've never wanted a human's blood so much in my life. And Bella just says, I trust you. Edward says, don't. Bella says, I'm here. I trust you.
Yeah.
So he did say that, and I don't know how much of that is like him just being dramatic in that moment, but I do feel like I'm like, oh wait, so is she also being kind of like manipulated to think that she is like, is she being manipulated in the same way that he is, where I think he's confusing his like hunger for her as feelings for her, whereas it's possible that she's also mistaking
he's tasted her,
drawn in,
he has
as having her feelings for him. So we talked about that, and I was like, hey, not too many couples have tasted each other's blood. That's pretty intense.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, super I could talk about this movie for so long. What was I was gonna say, what was the most like, okay, here we'll go, what was the most painful part of the movie for you to watch versus what was an enjoyable part for you to watch?
I don't really. There's just like. There's too many painful moments to count.
That is very true.
I mean, the whole thing's just kind of painful. You know, when the credits rolled, I was pretty happy. That was a pretty enjoyable part.
Okay. I think you were a little locked in. All right.
No, I can't. I just can't actually think of any examples right now. I mean, there's plenty of really uncomfortable moments that are just really dumb. But yeah, I mean, I think all I really have to say the thing is there's not much to say. I think it's like overall, yeah. I mean, there's a reason so many people are into it. The story is like basically fine. It's just like, and the movie's basically good. It's fine, but like the acting, especially Bella's fucking looks in the beginning of the movie,
so bad.
Out of anything in the whole movie, when they actually start freaking out because the vampire's hunting them, and she's like, "We gotta go," and he's like, "He's a crazy vampire." Like those were the most believable lines in the whole movie because they didn't have to try to be like in a panic. You know, like that was like the most natural emotion for them. That was when I actually believed they were real entities that could be alive. Everything else was like a facade of a real story almost, just with her like quivering lip. And like she'd do it to her dad too. I was like, who do you like? I don't get what she'd do it to everyone. All like she never as her I was like, she seems like soup well part of it is it could be like the intended audience is a woman, and so you're supposed to be Bella. So Bella's not supposed to be a whole lot because you can insert yourself into Bella.
She's supposed to be pretty bland overall.
So seeing her experience and just being like she's just there looking at everyone like she's about to fall asleep or something, and then like saying two things, but it did make her seem dull. And then like her figuring out the vampire thing, I was like, where is this coming from? Like she's like putting it all together, and she had the same like dull, like about to fall asleep look as she's like discovering he's a vampire. I was like, this just doesn't make sense. Like it doesn't feel right. But I think, like I said, there's a lot that I can excuse because it's just like campy. It's just really campy. It's just like fast paced and campy and not intended for me. And I can forgive it for all that, but I'm like not trying to watch it again.
Yeah. Yeah. I get that. It's such a like moment in time, and like I think that series had such an impact on so many people, and watching it as an adult is just kind of like weird because it's like the things that I remembered as a kid are not the things that I am remembering now that I've watched it again, or the things that I'm taking away from it, because it's like it's just Anubis. Newbie's being a pouty boy. But I think that it, like in the last episode, we kind of talked about all the dangerous men stuff and everything that Sage brought up again. But I do think that Twilight especially was like a starting point for a lot of people in like maybe the literature that they read now as adults. Seems like quite the pipeline.
So you're admitting it's erotica.
Well,
that was admission. We just caught it right there. She was hesitant last episode to try and admit that this was erotica, and I'll have the audience know off the record she admitted it to me the other night.
You can't prove that. You can't prove it.
I said, wait, hold up, say that one more time, and she said, oh, fuck. And I was like, yep, that's it. That's what I was talking about.
All right. Well, it's close,
which is fine.
It's closer to romance, all right.
It's more romance than erotica,
it's
but
like a gateway drug to.
It's like on the edge
more
because
concerning things.
Well, I mean, it's not concerning if you like reading erotic fantasy, but it's like if it's not just. I feel like it's too close to all of because like. The other thing about the movie is that their relationship is the center of all of it. They're not getting something through something together. Like there's a lot of rom-coms. They not necessarily even the trope that they hate each other. They just might not even realize they're there, but they like go through something dramatic, traumatic, whatever, and then they, get to know each other and realize how much they like each other. And they bond over it. And, there's an overarching sort of like storyline or theme to the story, but, I feel like with Twilight, sure, it doesn't finish, you know what I mean? So it's not erotica, but it's only about them and their relationship and how much they're not supposed to be together and they can't be together. But beyond all, and he might be the most apex top predator, most dangerous person in the world, but you can't be together and somehow we're going to still be together. She's the one who gets picked by the vampire out of everybody.
Right. Yeah. Like he has been alive.
It's like that's not a normal romance start.
No.
That's not a romance start.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that. All right.
No. I understand. I know. And also I want to say I was not saying that erotica itself is harmful or anything like that. I'm saying that there can be just associating love with I'll hurt anyone except you can be super harmful.
Oh, yeah.
And stuff like that. And so I we all think like, oh, I can like watch media, but I can separate my own life from it. Or like I can read something and separate from it. But it's like sometimes that's easier said than done. Especially when you're really impressionable and young. And a lot of our kind of media and stuff like that portrays love as being this extremely difficult thing filled with turmoil, and if it doesn't have that, then it's not love. And so a lot of people will start associating comfort with boredom and like, oh, it's not like, this isn't how it's supposed to be or whatever.
Well, I mean, I'll just say that, like, biologically, women are tuned to favor men who can be aggressive because that's a protection trait for them.
Oh,
so, like,
yeah,
baseline, I mean, it's totally 100% natural, for these indicators in men for women. But the thing about it is, like, actually functioning in a society, though, you have to know how to control that or whatever. And a lot of, people end up in stuff that's not healthy because, they're going off certain indicators. But the thing about those indicators is that they can end very dramatically as well, which is why it's such a big deal. Because sometimes life is actually really dramatic. But the difference between like movies and real life is that movies and TV and narratives and really any kind of story is about a problem. If there's not problems, what are you watching?
It's not a story.
It's not a story. There's no reason. And, I've been thinking about this for a long time because it's like, could there be any viable story without a problem? What would that even look like or what would that even mean? But all that to say that people who write movies and stuff have also figured out that the more problems, the more interesting. And so if you base everything you know about relationships off of media, there's just only going to be problems because that's what drives those stories. But, if you're going to have a story that actually makes sense in real life, it has to be different from that, Yeah. But people being dangerous is, it's whatever. I mean.
Yeah, well, and there's a difference between like, being like, I'd argue that a lot of women are, yes, attracted to that. And I think that a lot of times, you'll be attracted to just a straight up violent person instead of someone who is protective and like, only
it's like a misrepresented indicator.
Yeah, it's like being
not,
a man being violent and having anger issues is not the same as like a protective person or, you know, someone who will like, I don't even know really.
So are you saying there's a Twilight to abusive relationship pipeline that I don't know about?
I mean, I think just a lot of like young adult media that's geared towards women, especially from the 2000s and the 2010s, it portrays some of the most unhealthy dynamics. And we can also talk about how, yes, generally on average women are attracted to older men. But the amount...
Not vampires?
Not vampires. I mean, maybe, I don't know.
Oh.
But you know, there is
100-year older men.
I'm getting there, mister. But there's a
smell the Jeeper Creepers on him.
There's a big portrayal. So okay, I do recognize that there is a trend of women liking older men.
Again, another biological indicator.
Yes, and women mature faster than men generally. And so normally an older man is going to, like, by a couple years, is going to be at an equal level of maturity for you, even though you're younger than them. So that totally makes sense. In media, a lot of times, though, the age gap relationships that are portrayed are very questionable and a lot of times illegal, and they're like really romanticized, especially from that time in media, which is questionable. So I'm not saying that Twilight is to blame. I'm just saying that for some reason that was just like very popular around that time. I remember multiple shows and multiple movies portraying
the lead from the 90s and the gasoline, right?
Sure.
It's causing all this aggressive media. All these aggressive men,
you know,
taking hold of these women. Do you think the leaded gasoline made women want aggressive men? They're just out there soaking up this lead in the air and getting thirsty for aggressive men? Is that what the 90s was?
This is something I'm very passionate about, and I think is a pretty serious issue. So if we don't want to talk serious stuff right now, I don't have to keep
Are you
going.
pulling the serious card on me?
Well,
Damn.
This is a serious thing. And it does come up in Twilight. You know, I mean, even though he looks the same age as her, I mean, he is at least 80 years older than her. And that...
He doesn't act like
feels
it. That's all I'm saying.
Well, that is so true.
He acts like a dumb 17-year-old.
I'm like, this man who has...
Okay, so here's the thing.
Like, there's no way he would act like that.
Does he... So your brain, like, fully matures at 25, right? So, like, she's at a disadvantage, blah, blah, blah. But are we saying he's frozen in times from 17? Are we saying he doesn't have the... So this is what it would depend on, is whether or not he has the ability to age 100 years mentally, or somehow is still stuck at like around 17 mentally when they meet. Because if he's still 17 mentally, that would explain why he's so like, I'm going to protect you and like, I love you and blah, blah, blah. But, you know, there's certain things that he does know, right? Because in the science room, he was like, that's a this. And she was like, let me check. And he was like, simple mortal.
Well, and he does seem a little bit more like... The hard part is, yeah, I don't know if he seems more mature or just a little old-fashioned. But yeah, that is a good question, because also there is such a thing as, I'm pretty sure you meet some kid vampires at a certain point.
Just spoiling the whole series for me over here.
And I don't think they grow up. So you could be onto something where maybe mentally he has the brain of a 17-year-old. I don't know. But that doesn't really take away from the fact that he has at least 80 years of just life experience on her. You know, maybe he's not fully developed, but like he's seen and done a lot of things, you know. It is just kind of weird in general. Like, I don't know. And it's very odd. And
hey, vampires gotta find love too, you know? I mean...
Yeah. I know.
What are you saying? He should go pick someone and then just, you know, make her into a vampire? Is that better? Like, how's a vampire ever going to find love out there, you know? Vampires make more vampires. That's the only way to get more vampires, right?
Yeah.
So is there a neutral third party here creating vampires for the dating vampire market, or like how are we going to gauge, like, when he gets to fall in love,
Well, yeah, I mean,
he's the only one that he can't read her thoughts, she's special.
Right, she is special.
She's the one.
She's not
she
like
smells
other girls.
crazy.
She's special. She doesn't want to go to prom. She likes to stay home and read book. What? She stay home, read book. No, I mean, I agree. I mean, Edward deserves love for sure.
I feel like I'm being cut slightly out of the conversation because I've only seen the first movie, though. I feel like you have all the movies in mind.
Well,
you're talking about this dangerous man
but then you're
thing.
also like, I don't want to watch the rest of them. So what am I supposed to do with that?
I don't know. We'll figure it out.
I mean, they're entertaining.
Oh, I'm sure they are.
I mean, and then
I was thoroughly entertained yesterday.
And then exactly, and then you can fully understand and pick your side. And
why are you so obsessed with the side?
Because that was the obsession of the time, and I just like you always gotta ask people, like that's the question.
Team Bella versus Team Arya. What's her name?
Alex.
Nope.
Alice. Sorry,
Alice.
not
Team
Alex.
Bella versus Team Alice. New teams,
that
guys.
Doesn't make sense.
Pick your team. New teams. We're redrafting.
I'm Team Carlisle all the way. Yeah. Yeah. I was kind of pointing out to Tim all of the men in the movie that the girls go crazy for.
Which was all of them.
Which was all of them. I realized after pointing out a few
of
them.
Yeah.
I was like, oh. But that is that is kind of our thing, is we just I don't know. I mean, like, because I joked, I was like, yeah, it might be a better gauge just in general, because you were like, should you just point out the ones that women haven't like thirsted over?
Oh yeah.
And I was like, honestly, that's probably
and then she didn't say anything the rest of the movie, guys.
What?
You didn't mention anyone after that.
Oh, I didn't. But I said, I was like, that's probably just a good gauge for life in general, because it's like women will fawn over almost any man
if they're a vampire.
If like they don't even have to
or
be,
if they're Bella's dad, I guess.
They don't even have to be that attractive. There's like we're really good at just finding something in them and just being like, wow, I love this one.
It's probably just because they kept watching the movie over and over, and then the more reps they had with them, the more fondness they had with them. They're like, oh yeah, the dad is kind of cute.
Yeah, I will say, kind of having a crush on Charlie the dad is a little weird. I mean, he's fine, I guess.
Well, what if you're
Carlisle, I get. He walked in, I'm like, that's a beautiful man, and he's a doctor. Like, damn. But yeah. Charlie, I'm like, I
guess
he's got that mustache,
Hey, man, everybody's got a thing,
All right, do you need to talk about which girl you like the most? Because I feel like you said you were going to talk about girls this episode, because I talked about boys so much.
I did. I have been. I'm Team Bella or Team Alex. I haven't decided yet,
All right.
Alex, she's a vampire. She can see the future. She got a lot going for her. She didn't eat Bella when the blood was right there.
Yeah, she had a chance, and she
was like, we got to help Bella. She's just a good vampire. Yeah. And Bella seems kind of dumb and doesn't know what she's doing, and a little forward thinking with her vampire boyfriend, hoping that works out for her, but, she's cute, I guess.
All right.
I think I'm Team Alex.
Alice.
That's what I said.
Nope.
That's what
All right.
Team Alice.
So you don't like Bella, even though she not like other girl, and she read book, and she...
Bella, what did she do? Bella got picked by the vampire. Let's be honest about that, okay? She walked into the school and got picked by the vampire, all right? There was no picking. And then when he picked her because of her smell or whatever, and he couldn't be around her, which I get that's all like supposed to happen naturally, it's just another typical trope. Oh, the hottest guy in the school doesn't want me. Now I have to know why, and I'm going to ignore everyone else until I find out why.
I guess, yeah.
Like, Jesus Christ, calm down.
I think she was so so adamant
Was she
about
offended?
it. Well, yeah, she thought that
I couldn't read that on her facial expression because she was just staring off into the distance lazily the whole movie.
No, she thought that he thought she smelled bad, and so you could see like she was sniffing. She was like, "What the hell, man? Like, what's going on?" And then he he tried to switch classes, and she was like, "This fucking asshole." So like, I think that is why she got like kind of obsessed with him, because she was like, "What the fuck?" Like, I'm like, what is going on? I'm so confused. And then he was gone for however many days at school, and she was just like, what is happening with this person? But I was gonna say something about that. I will say how accepting Edward's family is to her is very cute. I've always really liked that about the movies and just everything, how they treat her. It's very sweet. I love that they were like cooking food for her even though they don't eat food. They like just super sweet overall, because you would think like a group of vampires would be like, you can't bring a human here, like we don't want them here, whatever. But they were like super nice, and probably what's happened is this group of vampires has been together for so long, and they're all partnered up, and they've like wanted Edward to have a partner so bad. And finally he like meets someone that he likes, so they're like, oh my god, like finally, like let's bring her over, like whatever. So that's and I don't know, I mean, I did like that part a lot. I feel like they were really nice to her. But yeah,
pretty cute.
Yeah, well, and you gotta wonder how much Alice sees into the future, because she did see that Bella would be a vampire, but they also like cover their asses by saying like, oh, her visions are subjective. I'm like, then is that a superpower?
Well, yeah, but I think in the way that they said it, especially when Edward said it, I think he said it more like like maybe he didn't want to believe it or didn't want to just buy into it or like get her hopes up or whatever, but
yeah.
But hey, she saw the ballet room, and that's why I'm talking about Alice, because Alice knows what's going on.
I love Alice.
She can see the future. She's super cool. I mean, Bella's just a simple mortal.
Yeah.
Who cares?
Like you said, she's supposed to be like you're supposed to be like, oh my god, I could be her.
She's the protag. You're supposed to put yourself in her shoes.
Well, in the name, I was telling Tim, I was like, the name Isabel Swan is like such
Isabella.
No, it's Isabel.
What?
And then she goes by Bella. At least that's what I think. Maybe it's Isabella. I don't know. I might be wrong.
Maybe that is. It's probably Isabella.
But
that makes more sense.
Isabel Swan is just such a like. I've never really read fan fiction, but from what I've heard, like that sounds like such a fanfic name. Like so kind of like Isabella.
It's Isabella.
Isabella.
Hey, something from Twilight stuck up in here, all right? That's all I'm saying.
Can you look up the lead girl in 50 Shades of Grey? I'm pretty sure her name is kind of like that. Oh god, the poster for this movie is like what's her name in it? Anastasia Steele. Like Christian Grey. Like names like that where they're so like supposed to be kind of like mysterious, like trying way too hard type vibe, oh god. I know very little about the 50 Shades series, and oh my god, is that what we watch next?
All I'm saying is there's no Star Wars erotica like that. You know what I mean? Star Wars just didn't birth erotica. You know what I mean?
Are you kidding me?
I mean, how many other movies have birthed erotica like that?
I guarantee you. Okay.
On the level of 50 Shades of Grey?
Oh, I thought you meant like Star Wars erotica doesn't exist. And I was going to be like, are you serious?
Every erotica exists, okay? I'm talking 50 Shades of Grey.
Like that level?
We're talking a movie. This movie caused 50 Shades of Grey.
Look up.
Okay. I mean, we can't dismiss that.
Look up how would we look that up?
Look what up.
You're right. I barely said anything. How would we look?
My life, ladies and gentlemen.
How would we look up that kind of like story to fan fiction pipeline, like 50 Shades of Grey, where it got super popular?
I don't know. I feel like you'd have to, commission a survey. Like you'd have to commission research for that.
Right.
Because I feel like 50 Shades of Grey is kind of unique in the way that it's like very blatantly erotica.
Yes.
But it got so popular they made a fucking movie out of it.
Right.
And like, how many movies like that are there? I mean, like, there's probably not a lot.
Probably not. You're
and
right.
And how many of those came from another story as big as the first story? You know what I mean? Like,
well,
it's a freak of nature, Twilight birthing 50 Shades of Grey. But it just goes to prove my point that this is not for men. This is why I wanted to stay away, because I don't even want to, get involved here with this erotic pipeline. I'm gonna be sleeping. I'm gonna be in a chamber with a vampire in my sleep soon. I'm just gonna be dreaming of vampires choking me or something.
Says the guy who read ACOTAR, and I haven't even read ACOTAR.
Oh, that was a page turner, but at the end I didn't like it. The ending kind of sucked.
Okay.
The ending kind of sucked. The thing about A Court of Thorns and Roses is that it moves really, really fast. And so it's like, in the beginning, the way it's written with her in her like normal hometown is really good for like, oh, here's this like crazy poor chick. She's really smart though. It's really, really interesting. And then the further and further you go into the fairy court and all this, like, that's where it really starts to get fluffy and fucking erotic. And again, just the way that their relationship works and the lack of consequences in that story are just like, okay, I guess we went here. And in that story too, it's the same exact thing where it's like, oh,
I've heard
he can't stand you.
Yeah, he's like,
he might kill you. He's so dangerous, and he just happens to be the strongest one out of all of us. And she's like, oh, and then she goes home and she's like, no, I can't stay home here. I have to go back to it. And she runs back into the fairy fucking kingdom or whatever. And it's just too much. It's just way too much. But because I got committed. There was, and like with Twilight, that's what I'm saying, with Twilight and with A Court of Thorns and Roses, I just did the first one. I was not compelled to keep reading that series, even though I finished that book, because I'm telling you, at the end of that book, I mean, I feel like I just want to spoil it, but at the end of that book, it's just kind of like, you should have either done something different or really did it, because that just kind of felt bad, kind of felt corny. It didn't make me want to keep going. But with Twilight, I'm like, these characters are pretty cool, whatever, but I'm like genuinely, and I'm not even being like a stuck up kind of like joshing around like guy here, like, I don't know if I really care about the rest of the movie.
Fair enough. You did the first one, and now you know.
Because there's so many other things I could do. That's the thing. It's like, if I had all the time, I'd be like, sure, let's line them up. Let's watch. But, we're watching Better Call Saul. I'm working on a lot of other personal projects here. Like, I don't have time for other Twilight movies. There's just like, that is not a priority. And I don't know. I just don't care. Like, Jacob, I don't want to see Jacob with his shirt off.
Oh, it happens in New Moon.
Yeah, I don't care to stick around.
New Moon is the Jacob
I don't
want
to sit around. Like, I just don't want to like sit down and willingly like go into that.
Yeah.
Because if it was John Jason Statham's with his shirt off, it'd be a different story. Every movie he makes is amazing.
What? With his shirt off? Why with his shirt off?
Because it wouldn't be a part of the plot.
It just happened.
It would just be in the movie.
Right. Yeah. Well, I do want to say that, like, toxic relationships or weird power dynamics or just any other kind of, like, fringe thing, especially in erotica, is fine. It's all fine. I don't see anything wrong with it when you can separate from it and, like, not put those expectations on, like, a real life human being. you know? I think that that's just the main thing, is that it can be really hard to not let that seep into your subconscious and like affect how you feel about your relationships in your life. If your partner is down to kind of do those things, that's fine. But, you know, I do think that it can just kind of like skew your perception of things. And Twilight is a very like mild example of that, but it was so impactful that I think it did affect a lot of young girls into not really expectations, but like it kind of started that pipeline of romanticizing harmful relationships. And this one, it was so blatant, and like obviously if you were a real life person and you came in contact with a vampire, it's pretty unlikely that you'd be like, I don't care, I love you. You know, you'd probably be like, I'm afraid, think I'm gonna leave. Especially with him being like, stay away from me. Like the amount of times he said that to her, like if I was in that situation, even with a normal person, I'd believe him. I'd be like, all right, I'm out. Like the part that's just, again, it's so blatant and it's so obvious that like I don't think it's as harmful because it's so far-fetched away from reality. But him being like, I wanted and I want to kill you, and she's just like, I don't care. It's like every girl ever. Why do we do that? So yeah, just wanted to say that because I don't want to sound like I'm against, you know, fantasy or anything like that. It can just, you know, it can skew you. It's all about your subconscious. We talk about the subconscious all the time, you know, how this stuff seeps in.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you're looking at it from the perspective of, is this safe for young women to watch? I'd say, yeah, no. I mean, if you're just like, didn't ever talk about relationships and you're like, yeah, let's just watch Twilight. Yeah, I mean, I think that might fuck up your daughter. Congratulations. But, you know, it's not even really like an age thing. If you were to teach your kids that like, hey, movies are movies and let's talk about the plot afterwards and see what we think about it. And, you know, the cool thing about movies is that nothing's real. So, you know, none of this has to affect your life. Let's just enjoy it as a story. And, you know, and just like if we're talking about kids or young people, talking to them like that, then yeah, I mean, you don't want to get into a relationship with someone who is going to harm you or treat you, you know, unfairly, improperly, or horribly. I mean, there's people out there and you got to watch out for them. But, you know, if we're just talking about this as a movie, it's like, even as erotica, I kind of wanted to try harder. I feel like I want this movie. I just wanted the whole thing to try like a little harder. I feel like it was like, as an adult now watching this movie, I know it's a little older. I know it's not for me. I know it's in a different time, blah, blah, blah. I just want it to, like, I feel like the idea and the story is good, but I felt like even just as a movie, the whole thing fell flat. And like Sage was saying, and we laughed a bunch yesterday because it's just kind of so funny and so cringy. And if you're a teenager, it's different. So there's something cool about that too. But it's like if you were going to be like a more sensual romance story, like I felt like they could have even done that a little better. Like, yeah. And I'm joking about Kristen Stewart's dreary-eyed performance, but at the same time, I'm kind of like, again, the only time I ever thought she was a real human being was when they got in the car and she was like, let's go, like whatever they said. It was like, oh, that felt natural. Everything else was like trying way too hard to do anything. Yeah. Which,
really weird acting choices, and yeah, they are very distracting for sure. Yeah, it's just like, why are you acting like that? Like,
well, and it's like, I wonder what happened with casting and with acting, and you know, to some degree, it almost felt like it felt like it was on purpose.
It could have been the direction that they gave her, you know, and act awkward as hell.
I wouldn't really, and that's the thing, is I wouldn't necessarily put it on Kristen Stewart, because that was kind of the feeling I got, was like, this is kind of what they were going for.
Yeah.
But it just still was like, for me, it took me out of it. Like,
Yeah.
but I don't know. Because it just felt like she was, yeah.
Well, it's a whole meme. Like, there are so many memes about, especially her acting in the first one, but there are other times in the other movies as well. But yeah, like, I cracked up because it's just such a meme now when she has her book and she does the little like I'm just reading, like I'm busy, like,
yeah.
And just, oh god, there's so many. And yeah, it's very, yeah, it feels, yeah, it doesn't feel like a real person would ever do that. It honestly reminds me a lot of what's become very popular recently, is like the like anime kid, you know, where they're like, hi, like, you know, like, that's what she seems like. Like, that's like, and that meme wasn't even around yet, but you know, like how a kid will watch too much anime and then start talking like an anime character with like all the little like, yeah, I don't know, like, you know, that's for some, her mannerisms gave me that vibe where it was like, no one naturally does any of the things you're doing.
Right. Yeah. Well, she read too many romance novels and she was emulating the dull protagonist that you can fit yourself into in a romance story. It was you know, in that light, it's perfect.
Well, I mean, and again, I know that 50 Shades is like extremely based on Twilight and everything. But from what I know about that too, the main girl is also extremely awkward and weird, like at the beginning, which is like, again, I think maybe just something that is used to really kind of draw in younger women, because I mean, pretty much all of us go through an extremely awkward phase, and like maybe even feel that into adulthood and everything. And like, it would, like, I don't know, for someone to be able to see past that is, I guess, like, comforting or something. I don't really know.
Yeah, I guess, like, looking at it like that, like, if you're just an awkward kid, like, yeah, you'd think this movie's like amazing and perfect.
Yeah.
Because, like, how else are you supposed to talk to people? You know, they haven't really figured it out. So,
yeah,
you know, I guess there's that. But
yeah,
I think,
fine.
and that's the thing, is like, I really didn't mind it. I mean, I wasn't like, wow, that changed my mind. I was like, I can't believe I haven't watched this in all those years. But I wasn't like, yeah, waste of time. Like, that was just like, what did we just do? You know, it was fine.
Yeah.
But it just, even for what it was, I just feel like it should have tried a little harder.
I agree. I definitely agree. And the series as a whole, it gets, I don't even know if I would say it gets better, because the first movie is so like iconic and so, you know, vibey and everything, and it does kind of gets lost over time as the other movies go. But yeah, it's
one thing
fun.
I thought of too is as they do the next 4 years, since they're young enough, they're going to change a lot, and I'm sure they look a lot different by the last movie, like Harry Potter situation, right? But that wouldn't happen because he's supposed to stay the same age.
Right. Yeah. And I will say there is a whole meme about there are a lot of very questionable wigs throughout this series.
Oh, wow.
A lot of people have to wear wigs, and a lot of them look really bad. Like, really, really bad. And then also, there's... I mean, we're probably... It doesn't even... we're not going to watch them, are we?
No, I don't care.
Well, there is a point where, at the very end, where Edward and Bella get married.
Uh-huh.
And they're on their honeymoon, and they, you know, get busy, even though Bella is still human at this point.
Uh-huh.
Bella does not get turned into a vampire until Breaking Dawn Part 2.
Uh-huh.
They put us through 4 movies of turn me, please. No, I can't. Turn me, please. No, I can't. Oh my God. But they she gets pregnant, and this baby is...
He's still firing? Vampires can fire like that?
They didn't know that they could.
Oh,
and so basically so this baby that she has, or that she's pregnant with, is growing way too fast because it's a superhuman. It's like a vampire human hybrid.
Wow.
And so it is like growing very fast. It's basically killing Bella. Because it's taking so much of her nutrition, so many things. She starts just drinking straight blood, even though she's not a vampire, because that's like what the baby needs. Oh God. But anyways,
that sounds really dramatic.
She gives birth, and this fucking baby, why they CGI'd this baby, I don't know. But can you look up
Bella's baby,
Renesmee. They name her Renesmee because Bella's mom's name is Renee, and then oh my God, dude. Okay, literally. Okay, yeah. Look at that first one. That's from the movie. That's not. Yes, because they're trying to show. So that is her, the actor that they picked. But then, and she's fine. But yeah, for some reason they decided to CGI the baby instead of just having just a real baby. I don't know why they did that. It is so unsettling. Like, oh God, it's so creepy, and it takes you out of it. It's so weird. Like, so yeah, they like, yeah, they just... Sorry, I'm also looking at all these horrible pictures. But yeah, so they CGI'd the baby. It looked really unnatural, and they were kind of like showing her growing up really fast. But yeah, just really, really weird. And I'll go ahead and tell you another part since we're not going to watch them. So throughout this, there is kind of a will they won't they with Jacob and Bella. Jacob like loves Bella. I think even at one point he says like, don't marry Edward, please. And then once oh God, it's so bad. Once Renesmee is born, Jacob realizes that the reason why he loved Bella so much is because he actually loved her unborn baby and imprinted on this baby. And that means that now werewolves, because he's a werewolf, we know this. You find out in movie 2 that he's a werewolf. But werewolves imprint involuntarily on someone. Oh God. And that essentially means like that's who they like fall in love with. There's a whole like breakdown of how that actually works. But yeah, he imprints on Bella's daughter and falls in love with her. And I'm pretty sure there is a flash forward to when they are together once she's a grown up. Like a brief flash forward. Or it could...
Is she like immortal too? Is she half immortal?
I don't know.
Oh yeah, we don't know that, but we know he fucking imprinted on her baby.
Well, so yeah, and there's a part... There's like the cringiest line. Once Bella's awake, she's a vampire now because they turned her into a vampire to save her life when she gave birth to Renesmee because she was dying. She like had a really, really horrible birth. And so they had to finally turn her to save her life. And then
could you imagine he marries her, they stay together, she finally gets pregnant at 35, then she's about to die at 35. She's like, has to be like 35 the rest of her life. She's like, why couldn't you do it? I was 21.
Literally.
You waited for this. You waited until I was dying. Or worse yet, at like 80 and he can't let go.
Oh, yeah.
And then he's like, oh, fine. And she's like 80 for forever.
Oh, my God. Yeah, her bones are just brittle forever. Well,
break me apart and burn me.
She does have nightmares about Edward being young and her being an old lady. She like there's a whole...
I'm sure.
She has a lot of anxiety about that and everything. But yeah, so that even made it weirder. And so Jacob starts calling her Nessie, like Renesmee, Nessie. And Bella because she just turned into a vampire, she's like blood hungry and like furious at everything. She like says the cringiest line. She's like, you she says, well, one, you imprinted on my baby. First of all, she was like, what the fuck? And finally, Edward has hated Jacob this whole time, like all these movies. And finally, for some reason, with this in particular, he understands. And he's like, Bella, like, it's fine. Somehow Edward's finally cool with Jacob. Like, I don't know.
Now that you're a vampire, I see clearly now.
It's so weird. And so Bella's like, you imprinted on my daughter. Like, what the fuck is wrong with you? And she gets really mad. And she's like, you named my daughter after the Loch Ness Monster or something. Like, she gets really mad and says that, and the line delivery is so fucking cringy, and it's so weird. And like the whole imprinting thing, just like, what even was that necessary? You know, like, really, we already had this kind of morally gray relationship between a 17-year-old and a mentally possibly 80 to 90-year-old man, you know, which is like kind of weird, kind of not. You can like kind of get past it. You're like, again, like maybe he's mentally 17, like, I don't know. Or maybe Bella is like, maybe this is like kind of her destiny, who knows. But then you have another questionable relationship of this, where technically Jacob's imprinting is involuntary, but like, what? And they explain that that's the reason why he's been so drawn to Bella this whole time.
Oh, look, he was drawn, I can attest, he was drawn to her in the first movie.
Of course.
That bitch was not pregnant, okay? So lies, first of all.
Well, that's what it's saying.
Second of all,
you're telling me he was attracted to one of her eggs, you know?
He knew the egg.
His whole
brain centered in on that egg. And could tell.
Yeah.
Because he's been alive for eons and there's no other egg like that.
Jacob has
Bella
not.
provides everything for everyone, okay?
Jacob's a normal age. I don't think the werewolves live forever like the vampires do.
That seems kind of fucking jippy if they only live like human lifespan and are also werewolves.
Hey, I don't remember the details of that. I don't. There's a lot of weird things. But that is like one of the main takeaways where I'm like, what even is that? Why did you do that? That was not necessary. Like, I think they wanted to give Jacob like a happy ending since he didn't get Bella. And it's just like, I get that it's involuntary, but like, you as the writer made that happen. It's like, what does that say about you as the writer? That's fucking weird.
I mean, that's the thing is, who knows? I mean, like, with all of this stuff, I think it's very like borderline and conditional, because part of the thing is like, as humans, we're inclined to be like, yeah, well, what if a 100-year-old got with a 17-year-old? And you're like, yeah, okay, well, that's fucked in basically every way, not real. But what if he's actually 17 and in a 17 body, but he just happens to have not aged in 100 years? And it's like, well, that's not real, so we can't really evaluate that.
Yeah, it's like,
and he's more dangerous than any natural born human could ever be. So how are we supposed to evaluate that? He's not just an aggressive fucking guy at your high school.
No,
he's a vampire. So there are parallels, but they're not, and it's a fantasy world. So it's like, where does it all shake out? And like, you know, I think with the imprinting on her baby thing, who knows? That could be like a. There's also the thing with like one of the most poorly executed TV shows of all time, Game of Thrones, where the show surpassed the books in writing, and then shit got sticky and weird. So I don't know. We could look it up, but you know, there's a lot of reasons why. Because sometimes even depending on how it works and the timing, the people making the movie will talk with the people writing the book, and they might even start almost collaborating because, you know, oh, we know we're going to make this into a movie. And so what's going on? So, you know, I don't know if that happened. I'm just saying sometimes you also need like an out, and maybe she couldn't find a better way for him to
Yeah.
have a reason for all that other than give him a little scapegoat. Like, oh yeah, by the way, like, well, let's do this thing. So everybody's fine and everybody's happy. And we're going to exit this fantasy world on a happy note. All right.
Yeah. There's like,
Y'all ain't never heard of imprinting on babies before? I mean, damn.
so like, what the fuck? Like, that is so fucking weird. Like, why?
Not if you're a werewolf. Come on, love for the werewolf. We need to recognize.
I'm not
werewolves.
judging Jacob. I'm judging the person who wrote Jacob. I am judging that person so fucking hard. It's just like the people who came up with. Sorry, spoiler for Dexter. Sorry, it's been.
We spoil everything
years.
here. Don't come here if you don't want it spoiled, okay?
But like, again, like I mentioned in the last episode, but like Deb finding out she's actually been in love with Dexter this whole time. I'm not judging Deb because she's not real. I'm judging the real fucking person who came up with that and decided that like, who are you and what is going on in your brain that you think that is okay and necessary? I think that there are some stories that can benefit from really kind of fucked up concepts like that. You know, maybe incest, maybe other things. Like, there are definitely stories where that is an important and integral part. But there are a lot of stories where I feel like it is just shoehorned in because some writer is a little freak. They want it in the story.
Yeah, I mean, that's like, well, but that's part of, I think that kind of comes down to as well, like the whole thing with, you know, Edward and being aggressive or whatever. But just like, yeah, maybe we do all have these feelings inside of us, and how are we supposed to help that they're there? Maybe, but like, yeah, we can't necessarily act them out, or like maybe it's a misplaced feeling for something else. But no matter what, you know, something sort of bubbles up there or whatever. And, you know, it is interesting because, like, maybe writing it into a story, you know, like Stephen King's probably, like, really fucked up, you know, but he just writes stories. He doesn't, like, go do weird shit, you know, like, not that weird
that
of
we
shit,
know
you know.
of. No.
I'm sure he does weird shit, but, you know, like, not illegal, like, really, like, heinous weird shit. You know, he puts it all in his books. And so, like, there is something to be said about that. But then again, that's where I'm kind of like, you as the, you know, consumer of said story per se, you know, has to be able to delineate between what's just a story and what's like something to like, you know, experience and just like, you know, here it is. And then like, or to take seriously or like entertain or like let it like slide into your subconscious, you know, like, you know, I'm not trying to, you know, get with somebody really aggressive because I watch Twilight now, you know, because, you know, I know the difference.
Yeah.
But
well, and I think that with a lot of romance, a lot of fantasy, especially geared towards women, and, you know, things like Twilight, where at the end of the day, it is pretty innocent overall, and it's just like a fun story. Like, I do not think that it's like you said, directly like, oh, I want a dangerous man now because I watched Twilight. It's like, no, it's like, it's incrementally enforced over time with like a lot of different media and a lot of different just media for sure, like music, books, movies, whatever. But I think that it all can kind of come down to a lot of these stories are about a very normal person who to either a person or a group is seen as special. And I think that that's something that's kind of in a lot of different stories. I mean, Harry Potter, you know, Star Wars, all these different things. Those are more hero based, that like the hero is this normal guy, but turns out he's really special, you know, or or like Katniss Everdeen, you know, or whatever. But then if you take it into that more romantic side and kind of like fantasy side, it's like, I'm special to this person and they like accept me for who I am. And like, it comes down to like being a human. You can feel so ordinary and boring a lot of the time. And I think that in a fantasy, like that idea that someone could see you as so special and important and like would do anything for you. I mean, in this story, like even kill for you, like that kind of stuff. I do think that is like very enticing and very, I think just a need of all humans to feel like seen and wanted and understood and like even like put on a pedestal sometimes, by another person. And so I think that is like probably one of the cores of all of it is like, on paper, there's nothing special about this person, just like me, but like someone who, and it's even more intense when that someone doesn't see that in anybody else, like either they've never been with another person or everyone else just kind of, they didn't feel anything with or whatever. It's like, I think secretly everyone kind of wants to feel that way. Like in their lives, that like a person sees them kind of as like more special than they might be to the general public, if that makes sense.
Sure.
Yeah. Like I say, I'm speaking from experience,
Yeah.
So, yeah. I'll be vulnerable for a second. I like feeling special. I felt very ordinary most of my life.
Yeah.
And so the idea of being actually like a special and important person is like, who doesn't want that?
Mm-hmm. Does she domesticate him by the end of the because he gets married, right? So then are they domesticated pretty much after that?
Well, kind of. It's hard because Carlisle kind of already domesticated the whole group, by basically turning them into what they call vegetarians, where they don't eat people, they just eat animals, and like they kind of live a more domestic lifestyle, like they live in one place, they all that, but yeah, I mean, in a way I think so. It is interesting too that, I
mean, even getting married is a huge signal, got to take the wild man, the vampire, the pirate out on the sea, the rough and tumble motorcycle driving man. You got to put him in a house. You got to put him in a home. You got to domesticate that motherfucker. That's the goal. That's the female dream. That's the female gaze.
I will say I had a moment of that the other day.
Really?
Well, yeah, because I mean, you were a wild man. And well.
What are you talking about?
You
know I still am.
I know you're a wild man, but now you're my wild man, and you live in a house with me. I've
always lived in houses,
and we have not always.
That's true.
But we have our little doggies and our little kitties, and we hang out, and you cook and I clean, and it's just like we're living our little life. And we were at American Furniture shopping for furniture, and you sat in the recliner and you were like, oh my god, I want a recliner so bad, like and you just got so comfy and you were so happy.
That's why you liked it. She got so much enjoyment from me sitting in this fucking recliner. I looked over, she's grinning from ear to ear, she's giggling. The domestication, that's what you were, that's what it was.
What?
This is full blown domestication right here.
I said that while we were there. I clocked it while we were there. Cause like, I mean, just the amount of dad vibes I was getting from you was just so funny. Cause it was just so like, you seemed more at peace than I have seen you ever. Like laying in this recliner, like all the way back. You were just like, oh my God. And, yeah, I just was like, oh, like he could be in his little recliner reading his little book, and we could like just hang out and be little, like in our little apartment, not that you're little or anything.
Apparently in this story I sound like I am.
No, I just like, I
don't want to be big and fit into a little recliner, okay?
No, you're right though, that like, yeah, I think it's interesting that there is something very attractive about very kind of like wild and free and maybe even impulsive men, but at the same time, like seeing those men doing domestic tasks is also, or like domestic just activities in general, is also like very like, oh my God, I love that. Like that's so cute, but yeah.
Twilight gets a 6.5 out of 10 for me.
Yeah, I don't think I can give it an accurate rating. I think I'm clouded by nostalgia too, you know? Like, even though I'm critical of it, I love the aesthetics of the movie. I mean, of course, they dictated like a whole generation of style and music taste and just all these different things. Like
The part where that music was playing in the background, and I was like,
You were
I'm gonna
so
fucking
mad.
lose it. This music is so bad right
Yeah,
now.
there's some pretty intense music.
It was like an orchestral, tense,
Very
transitional
tense.
scene with
Yeah.
transitional, tense, orchestral / electric guitar music.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was like, oh, fucking kill me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, but was it Eyes on Fire?
Yeah.
That
on
song's
Fire.
that song's a classic.
Of course.
I know that song, and there's a huge dubstep remix of that one. So
Mm-hmm.
that song is insane.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
That song came on, I was like, no way.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Didn't know that was in here. To me, it felt wrong. Seeing that whole movie and the whole vibe and the whole genre of that movie, and then a song that good in the movie, I was like,
Well, see,
this song's too good for this movie. I don't know what's happening right now.
See, for most people, that song is directly correlated with that movie. It is like the song.
I am so glad that song didn't get ruined for me.
Do you know Decode by Paramore?
No,
you
not
probably
that-
know it if you've
I mean,
heard it,
yeah,
but
maybe.
it was a song made for Twilight, and it became really popular even outside of Twilight. But
Eyes on Fire wasn't Twilight though. They just used it in the movie, right?
they just use it in the movie, but yeah, it's so associated with it.
Yeah, amazing song.
Yeah.
That song felt wrong. Looking at the movie and having that song in there, I was like, wait, what?
Yeah.
No, this is weird.
Yeah, yeah. I will say I did like. I noticed that I don't want to get off on too much of a tangent. I know we've already been talking for quite a while, but I did like. It seems like in this movie, from seeing the rest of them, it's the movie where Edward smiles the most and is actually like happy the most. The rest of them, I don't know if they changed his direction or something, but he seems a lot more serious in the rest of them. Whereas like the scenes where he's smiling and kind of giggling, and like when he has his sunglasses on, which he looked great in those sunglasses, the Ray-Bans. I think anyone who wears Ray-Bans, I'm like, you look awesome. Like,
That's what they
you
do.
look so cool. Why does everyone in Ray-Bans look so cool?
Yeah.
Like, damn, you know? Like, I don't know why that is, but every person who wears Ray-Bans, I think they look 10 times cooler. But he had his sunglasses on. He's like joking around, you know, like whatever, I'm breaking the rules and all that. And that gets a little lost in the rest of the movies, which kind of made me sad. You know, I feel like he became a little too serious for my taste, but
Well, wouldn't know. Haven't seen him.
yeah, but that's
So.
one main thing. Yeah, moral of the story, if you don't have a pair of Ray-Bans, get a pair of Ray-Bans, you know?
That's the main takeaway
Yeah,
here.
if you're like, man, why can't I get these bitches, you know? Get a pair of Ray-Bans.
And some diamond skin. All right, guys, that's it for us.
Yeah.
Ray-Bans and diamond skin forever.
Yes, diamond skin. This is the skin of a killer Bella. My sparkly skin.
He's trying not to laugh in that scene.
Dude, why sparkles? Why? Oh, oh God, I could go on forever. So
Yep.
I'm not going.
I'm trying to end it. That's why I'm trying to end it.
Okay. Damn. All right. Well, bye everyone.
We'll catch you next time. Thanks for joining us, guys.
Bye guys.
Bye.